There's no previously on here. The episode's closest attempt at a recap of the events of Duane Barry is for Mulder to hear the answering machine message that we had heard Scully leave last time, when Duane broke in and attacked her. The cops are already on the scene when he arrives, and as he sees the evidence, his imagination fills in what happened. Her mother soon arrives, naturally frantic, and wants to know where Scully is, and Mulder has no answer. Last time I said that what made the episode Duane Barry even better was continuing it here. The reason for that is because of what Mulder did during the hostage situation. When they were ready to take out Duane Barry, Mulder interfered. Now, leaving aside whether or not that was the wrong thing to do, it certainly seems like it, but I don't want to get into a debate about that right now. It means, though, that Duane is alive only because of what Mulder did. And because of that, Scully is at the mercy of a violent man, all because of Mulder's beliefs. That was the reason that he called him back. I mean, you might argue that Mulder had some kind of empathy with him that made him want to protect Duane, but I think if he did, he wouldn't have immediately questioned his story in the way that he did. I think he saw them as either an unfortunate victim or a manipulative liar and just had to know the truth, even if it wound up putting himself and the other hostage at risk. Now, don't misunderstand that I am not saying this is all Mulder's fault. What I am saying is that that man is alive because of the truth that Mulder is chasing. And all of the evil that he does is going to weigh down on Mulder substantially for that reason. And all of his fears about Scully are going to be tinged with rage and guilt. We have seen what he's been willing to do to pursue the truth. What will he now do to pursue someone who has taken one of the only people that Mulder trusts and cares about, after having preyed upon Mulder's desire for proof of his beliefs? The case gets underway with Skinner himself organizing a team, repeating Scully's assertion that Duane's behavior is because he was shot in the head, and repeating Duane's goal that he will take someone else to the alien abduction site in the hopes that they will stop taking him and take them instead. Mulder's quiet, only speaking up when directly questioned by Skinner, and even then he hedges his bets. He only says that Duane may have found her using that tracking device, and even that's not given his usual insistence. He had been taken in by Duane, and now Scully's life hangs in the balance. He is not going to make that same mistake twice while she is in danger. But Skinner's not going to even let him go into the situation, ordering him off the case because he's too close to it, and because he knows how Mulder bends the rules with his normal shit. And during all this, the cigarette-smoking man has been in the room, watching, and, of course, contributing to the overall air quality. Remember that he and Krychek, who takes Mulder away, had discussed at the end of Sleepless that they needed to split Mulder and Scully up. Is Duane part of the plan? Admittedly, a not terribly ideal element in any plan, but part nevertheless. All the resources of a massive global conspiracy that can take down presidents and shake governments, and they've got Captain Crazy Von on the case. Because, yeah, sure, there's that old saying, just because you're crazy doesn't mean that nobody's out to get you. Duane is proof of the reverse of that. Just because they're out to get you doesn't mean you're not crazy. This behavior gets him pulled over, and Duane's inability to not sound like a madman makes the trooper nervous, and his bloody knuckles doesn't help the case. For a guy who had previously known all the tricks of a hostage situation, Duane has suddenly taken a bottle of stupid pills. The only break he gets is that Scully tries to get the trooper's attention from the trunk, and during the distraction, Duane guns down the cop. That's Duane, always taking the long view. Well, hold on to your butts. You're not going to be ready for this plot twist. Mulder is not staying out of the investigation despite being ordered to. He has the recording, the one made of the trooper being shot while Scully was visible in the trunk, and listens to the tape of the hostage situation, although I'm waiting for it to come out on iTunes. He finally realizes that ascending to the stars in describing Duane's abduction experience is actually the slogan of Skyland Mountain, so he plans to take Dick Grayson here and head over to check it out. Krychek calls somebody, and his comment that he'll try to stall Mulder until they get her means that he is in on whatever's going on with Scully, that this is part of whatever Cancer Man is up to. Since we soon see him in his car hanging up his own cell phone, I'd say that's a definite. He'll have to come up with some way to slow down Mulder. Perhaps now is the time for a cunning plan.
You know, Chernobyl, Exxon Valdez, 3 Mile Island, they were all linked to sleep deprivation.
Nice one, Mad Men The Next Generation. If you do come up with a cunning plan, be sure to let us know. But the talking at least manages to get Mulder himself talking, and in his sleep-addled state, to say more than his usual caution would allow. He admits that the homing chip is the least plausible explanation of how Dwayne found Scully. But that means that someone gave Dwayne her address and was telling him to do this. And that means conspiracy. And if it's a conspiracy, then anyone in the government could be on it. Anybody. Even you, Krychek. And uh-oh. Mulder talks to the poor schmuck who works there, who says the only way up the mountain this time of year is to drive. The lift is out for the season, but Mulder has a special pass. Mulder also gets to the front of every line at Six Flags with that pass. Mulder leaves Krychek with the operator, who gives specific instructions. Keep it below 15. And Mulder is like, 30. Got it. The guy finally gets through and tells Fast and Furious that at that speed you're going to jump the car off the track, so Mulder finally turns it down a little, all while the cable is screaming. To cap off this operator's crap day, when Mulder's nearly at the top, Krychek uses his coupon to knock him out and then dicks with Mulder's car a little to stall him from getting to Dwayne. But the reason for Mulder's reckless disregard for safety and common sense is that sense of guilt. And so even though he should know that getting himself killed isn't going to save Scully, he's pushing things because he just can't stand the thought of not taking action, even if that action is taking a potential risk. That's why he just gets out of the car and is ready to climb the rest of the way, so Krychek turns it back on again. I think this whole thing is going to be in the 2014 Olympics. Mulder makes it to Dwayne's abandoned car, finding only Scully's crucifix inside. Dwayne gives himself away just after a strange light is seen. It might be a helicopter, except it seems to move funny. And where's Scully?
Leave her. They took her! Who? Them!
Dwayne then proceeds to freak out because there's another light, but this is definitely a helicopter. The surprising thing is that this is only the halfway point of the episode. The manhunt for Dwayne was surprisingly brief, leaving a lot more time to now focus on the consequences of what he's done. Dwayne says that they took Scully, but Mulder doesn't want to repeat his mistake and assume that Dwayne is part of some alien or even government conspiracy. He wants to know if Scully is dead. And on discovering blood and Scully's hair on his wrist tag, Mulder starts choking him. What a difference a little time makes. When Dwayne had a gun on him, Mulder was still willing to intervene and save his life on the chance that he was telling the truth. Right now, he might just kill Dwayne with his bare hands. He doesn't, of course, and we learn that Scully is indeed alive and undergoing some kind of procedure. I know the invasive pregnancy is perceived as an overused and arguably misogynistic form of body horror in some circles. I'm not going to debate whether that's true so much as address this specific instance and say that whatever one feels about that subject, I just don't think it applies here. The reason is that The X-Files is a show centered around UFO mythology, and women being impregnated aboard alien ships is a significant part of that mythology. The site for the International Center for Abduction Research has it listed right after mind scan, the very term that Mulder used to describe Dwayne's abduction experience when aliens spoke to him in his head. The medical experimentation that Dwayne undergoes is likewise part of this mythology, and the missing time, and numerous other things mentioned in these two episodes and throughout the show. So I don't think anything needs to be read in their choice to show the already pregnant Anderson in a mythologically consistent manner that involves already being pregnant. Meanwhile, Mulder's unhappy that he caught Krychek talking to Dwayne.
No one.
You said you choked him.
No one is to interrogate the suspect.
Except you.
Except me.
I mean, I haven't even kneed him in the groin yet. Well, just as Skinner arrives to remind Mulder who's actually in charge around here, Dwayne seizes up and dies. Something about this doesn't make sense. I better have Scully do an autopsy. Oh, right. The actual pathologist is with the military, so Mulder needs to go through channels to get a copy of the autopsy, otherwise known as the fake autopsy. While he's steaming over that, Krychek and Cancer Man go to their favorite spot to make out and talk about what they're going to do next, where it's explained why they go to this much trouble to just dick with Mulder.
If Mulder's such a threat, why not eliminate him?
That's not policy.
It's not. After what you had me do?
Kill Mulder and you risk turning one man's religion into a crusade.
Krychek's job is to get close to Mulder, so even though the likely cause of death is Mulder's Adam's apple massage, Krychek backs up that Dwayne was still alive when Mulder left. But OPC wants them to go talk to the polygraph guys and shake their chicken bones at them or whatever, see what happens. But Mulder blows that off to go see his contact in the Senate, but waiting for him there is Mr. X, quoting the opening text for this week.
Why kill Dwayne Barry if there was nothing to hide?
You mean the government?
There are no answers for you, Mr. Mulder. They only have one policy. Deny everything.
This is where Mulder is now bottomed out. They've taken away the X-Files. They stuck him with a partner who's working against him. They've got him looking like an out-of-control and violent man. His contacts have been forced to shun him, and his only inside man says there are no answers for him. And Scully's been taken away from him. Just 4 episodes ago, he'd been discussing leaving the FBI to pursue his work on his own. And he sits there, and you might wonder if the same thought is going through his mind right now. But then he spots some of Cancer Man's butts in Krychek's ashtray, so he breaks out more of that prize-winning report writing so that he can accuse Krychek of obstruction and murder. Skinner's hard on him at first because, well, Mulder's a royal pain in the ass, but he's at least willing to hear him out and calls Krychek in, only he seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. This is when Mulder finally gets a break.
There's only one thing that I can do, Agent Mulder. As of right now, I'm reopening the X-Files. That's what they fear the most.
You're welcome! And there's only one S in asphyxiation. As this is the second half of last part's must-see, obviously this is a must-see too. Like the host, Ascension breaks away from the normal formula to show us the ramifications of events. Not just the proof is lost, or the monster escape, or it's killed and the remains are lost or hushed up. This afterwards, then what part adds some interesting elements there, and it helps this episode as well, giving it essentially 2 mini-episodes in one. A typical race against the clock to track down the suspect, and Mulder's emotional crumbling in the wake of his failure. The closing scene with Scully's mother and the crucifix fits in nicely with that as well. This episode is really the payoff of Krychek's reveal in Sleepless to actually be working for Cancer Man. Quick aside, but like everyone else, when the person disappears, the phone number has been disconnected overnight. I always love when that happens. They always make sure to do that. It's like, we can stay one step ahead of the FBI, the CIA, even the NSA, but we better not mess with AT&T. They'll find us! Last time it didn't mean anything, but here, Krychek's betrayal adds something to it. Now, they could have certainly kept it a secret, like not showing any Krychek stuff when Mulder was not around, to keep us guessing. And that's certainly a way to do it that would be interesting. Except that in the X-Files, if somebody could have a secret agenda, 9 times out of 10, they have a secret agenda. Instead, they use that Hitchcock thing that I mentioned before. A 5-minute conversation and then a bomb goes off. You have boredom followed by shock. But if you show the audience the bomb, the scene becomes tense with anticipation. Krychek is a bomb, and we're just waiting to see what he's going to do next to thwart Mulder without tipping his hand, or seeing at what point when he will tip his hand. And this was the right time for it too, for Mulder to discover that bomb is there. You can't draw out the tension for too long, or it can get frustrating that people aren't noticing. Plus, Mulder has grown rapidly paranoid. He takes those cigarettes as definitive proof of suspicions that he's had since the tram incident, even though Krychek could have just had a date with somebody who smokes. No, after what happened, there is no way that Mulder will trust anybody. Even Skinner doesn't get anything more than the cold shoulder from Mulder. Trust no one was the message of last season's final episode, and Mulder has learned over these 2 episodes that he needs to be more vigilant on that.
The U.S. Department of Transportation estimates that over 190,000 fatal car crashes every year are caused by sleepiness.
Did they estimate how many people are put to sleep listening to their statistics?